I was just sharing about Isaiah 53, our Messiah, our Jesus Christ. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I can't help it. I was in church yesterday, and the pastor that was teaching was speaking about aborted children. How in our society today we have accepted the fact that it's okay to kill that child inside of us. I really like the idea that the pastor explained in the beginning of this sermon, that he doesn't share this information and his knowledge through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit to convict or to bring condemnation on anybody, because we understand that we all fall short, and it's not meant for us to beat up anybody. And my intentions here is not to beat up any women, whatever, but this part of it kind of threw me off today, because I remember being in a shelter sharing the gospel, and I identified myself as a Gentile, and I was quickly approached by some homeless guys that was in the shelters. They were telling me that you missed the mark, that you're not a Gentile, you are an Israelite. Now, the reason why this came to my mind a few minutes ago is because I just watched on the news where there were some young folks that went to Washington to demonstrate the ideal of people killing babies. But they were approached by these men who call themselves the New Israelites. They were black men, and they're saying the same thing I heard when I was preaching at the homeless shelter, that you're not a Gentile, you need to know your history, and you're more than what you think you are. You are a black Israelite, and you should be proud of it, and you should stand strong in it. Well, that's not what Christ says. And so I would like to touch the hearts of those men who were calling these young teenagers names, and even some of the black African ones. It was called the African Americans. They were calling them names for being with the whites. And I'm trying to get some understanding how we become so arrogant that we get some truth, and now it's important for us to make sure that you get this. And if you don't get it in a gentle way that I think you should get it, then I'm going to call you names. And that's what they were doing. And regardless of how right you may be, we don't have a right to push our beliefs on anybody. And so to watch these young kids and to watch these brothers, my people, I call them, saying that I'm an Israelite. Have you studied the history? Have you studied when Christ came, these same type of Israelites with this attitude was like, get him, stone him, kill him. And then Christ makes it clear to us that we are to love. Paul says this. All of those who call themselves black Israelites and they think they got to force a message on anybody, Paul says this. All my knowledge that I have, Paul the apostle, all the power that was given to me as a Roman citizen and as a student of one of the best theologian teachers that ever walked this earth, he has taught me the whole Testament, the Old Testament. And I'm a big shot. That's what he said. And I'm going to persecute the Christians because they're doing the wrong thing. This is what I've seen today on the news. So the Israelites, the brothers, is saying, hey, y'all ain't the real people. We the real people. Y'all ain't, what y'all doing here, you filthy little something like that. That's what Paul did when they stoned Silas. Get the Christians. They filthy, they dirty, lock them up. And then Paul gets a revelation from Jesus the Christ, and he says that all my knowledge, people, all that smartness that you have, all that studying that you have about you being the chosen people, Paul says, I count it all dung, but Christ crucified. The message is this, that none of that means anything. What's important is that Christ became the suffering servant for my sins. And now I should be more in a posture like Paul when he says, I am a bond servant of Jesus Christ. That's what he learned through all that knowledge and wisdom that he had after being touched by Jesus. So, if you are Black Israelites or whatever you are and you feel like it's important to push your message or to call people names, then that's really not saying a lot. Because I don't have to try to fix anybody. I work on a job, I work on a government job, state job. I don't force my religion on anybody. I allow the Holy Spirit to do the same thing it did for me. See, I was told about Christ when I was a little boy. When I was 13, 14 years old, when they was going to church, I was laughing at them, telling them they stupid. I don't want to hear about this Jesus thing. I didn't want to hear about it. But when God drawed me, and then he put me, it says that, I like this saying we used to say in the rooms, it says that when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. So we don't have to force anything. We show our faith and our gratefulness in God by the way we walk. And God tells us, love your neighbor. Be right back. I get a little emotional. Love your neighbor.